Welcome, everyone, to this edition of Rossiter's Ringside Report. I'm Mark Chang. I'm joined by the head coach of the boxing program at the Annandale Boys and Girls Club, Leo Rossiter. And today we are going to talk about the upcoming fight, the mega fight between Teofimo Lopez and Shakur Stevenson. So, Leo, I'll let you start things off.
Well, this is the first major fight of the new year, and Shakur Stevenson has quite a following in the D.C. area. He's trained here. I don't know if he lived here or not. I think we had that discussion a few months back. I'm not positive whether he actually lived here, but he did come here and train for a few of his fights, from my understanding, over in Alexandria, I believe it was.
Yeah.
And uh, so this is going to be a mega fight. It's a good way to kick the new year off. Now, two guys at the top of their game, in their prime, not ducking each other. You got to give them hats off for that. So, uh, who's your favorite in this?
So that's a bit of an analysis here. I think that, Shakur Stevenson is obviously very, very talented fighter, remarkable defense. But Teofimo Lopez is a very rare fighter in that he's able to deal with, if you will, slick boxers. And Shakur Stevenson's obviously a very slick boxer. And the two guys that come to mind in recent decades were Miguel Cotto and Julio Chavez Sr. And if you look at what Miguel Cotto and Julio Chavez Sr. Did, their motions, I guess, in the ring, it was nothing, heroic or spectacular, but their sense of timing was so good, and they were able to beat guys that were slick boxers. And Lopez, um, when he fought Lomachenko, kind of showed that ability because Lomachenko is slick. The difference is Lomachenko is a little small, so and much smaller than Stevenson. And I mean not necessarily weight wise, but frame wise. And it's not that Shakur Stevenson has a ridiculously long reach. In fact, I think Lopez and Stevenson have roughly the same reach and around the same height. So dimensionally they match up. But I think Lopez it could be one of those rare talents that is able to deal with the slick boxer. Uh, we're talking kind of the physical part of this right now. Now, the last thing I'm going to say on the physical part of this is that Lopez is more muscular. Now, that's kind of good and bad. So he's going to be a little bit more heavy-handed. I don't really see Stevenson, unless he really takes some chances, hurting Lopez or stopping Lopez. Lopez, however, probably has enough to hurt Stevenson if he lands, of course, that's the big if. That's in his favor. What's not in his favor is a more muscular guy has to boil down a little bit more to make that same weight class. So Stevenson is going to make the weight more comfortably. He's going to have probably a little bit more energy, a little bit more longevity into the later rounds than a guy who's got more muscle around him, or on him, I should say. So there's a bit of a trade-off there. It's really going to depend on how disciplined Lopez was in making that weight at the beginning of training camp. How much did he have to cut? Did he do it correctly? Is he waiting to kind of to the last minute? We don't really know any of that. Now, on the psychological end of it, I've seen a couple of the press conferences, and Lopez is a little silly, right? And I don't know if that means he doesn't think he has a chance. And so he's just trying to get under Stevenson's skin, which it looks like he has actually a little bit, or if he's just supremely confident and he feels he could win this. So again, that's really hard to say. I think I think what this boils down to is really the preparation and who can make the adjustments in the ring, assuming they're both, in prime condition. Um, I'm kind of going to go out on a limb. I know the smart bet would be Stevenson, but I'm going to go out on a limb, take a bit of a gamble, and because if the stars lined up for Lopez in the training camp, if he's kind of had himself mentally locked in, I think he can pull it off. Actually, believe it or not, but the few stars have to line up. But what do you think?
Well, I think at one time Shakur was trained by K. Chroma, and K. Chroma, magnificent boxer, very slick, very smart, very intelligent. I can't say enough good things about him. Um, I don't know if they're still together or not, but they were for a while, and he hopefully he learned enough um, from Kay when they were together that he should be able to, be able to roll with punches, give angles, and feint and move his head a lot to give our good friend there a lot of trouble. Because a stronger guy, if he gets you, you're going. But such as uh, this is grasping at a straw. Foreman Ali,
Hmm.
Foreman, was knocking everybody out, but he couldn't catch Ali. He kept tied up angles, and so if Sakura is able to pull off that kind of um, strategy, he should come through with a victory. And do you know if Kay Koroma is still working with him?
So I haven't heard that he's not still working with him. So I would
Hmm.
assume he is. And actually, as long as we've been in the DC area, or I was until recently, I've actually never met K Chroma. I've heard only good things about just him as a person and his coaching ability. I haven't heard that there's been any split, so I would assume that they're still working together.
Hmm. Well, if they're still working together, then you know Sakura becomes my hands down favorite.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I'm surprised you never ran into Kay. Um, uh, been around for a long time. I've taken guys over to spar with him and stuff, and
Mhm.
um, just a magnificent boxing mind,
Mhm. Yeah,
boxing
no, I
talent all
understand
around.
he's a pretty good fighter himself.
Yeah,
Yeah. Uh,
yeah, he was.
yeah, yeah, and it could you might be right. I mean, it could well be one of those fights where you've got the boxer versus the puncher. Although I wouldn't necessarily bucket Lopez necessarily as just a puncher. I think he can box a little bit. Uh, where you think, oh man, if he catches him just once, and how many fights have we seen? Yeah, if he catches him and the puncher never catches him, right? But I think
Mm.
this has the potential to be a little bit different. I'm not saying that it will be. Um, that's why they fight, and that's what I love about this fight is that you've got, like you said, two guys in their prime. They're both the best in their division. They're fighting each other. Um, this is not just best fight you know of the past year, probably in a few years, I'd say. But with that, any closing thoughts?
Well, my closing thought here is that this might finally be a fight worth the pay per view. Um, because, like I said, in the last few years, this is the most interesting matchup we've gotten. Just that it's two high caliber fighters in their prime, and usually everybody's ducking everybody, but these guys are going right at it, and um, I'm really looking forward uh, to the fight, and I like to thank one of our sponsors here, 29 Pad Thai at 8064 Rolling Road, Springfield, Virginia, who's let us use their established tonight for um, our taping of the episode, and it's quite a dining experience here.
You'll have to take me over there next time I'm in town.
Uh, just don't wear heels.
I
All right, man.
don't even think I own any of the heels anymore. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. So the interesting thing is, and not to kind of create another discussion on this, this is probably something for a separate episode, but you probably remember pay-per-view. When something was pay-per-view, it meant you had a full lineup of world championship matches on the undercard. It was a big thing, and some of the matches, the best fights that you can recall were undercards of pay-per-views. And then
Hmm.
somewhere down the line, it kind of switched over to you're getting one fight and several other infomercials, excuse me, on the undercard, and the prices kind of crept up. And I'm not sure if you've noticed any of the undercard matches. Are any of those attractive to you? I haven't really been keeping up with it other than the main event.
Well, I'm as guilty as you are about not keeping up with that. Um, and and for a similar reason, I haven't kept up with it because the undercards pretty they're uh, they went downhill in caliber. They're not as good as they used to be, and it used to be like when they had those fights, they had the one or two championship fights, but even the undercards were, the 10 round fights were, high, guys working their way up and a lot of good talent on there.
Yeah, those were good
Uh,
matchups.
yeah, but now it's like you got one, you know, one, excellent fighter, and the other guy's a journeyman, and you don't get to really see the talent, the guy expressing his talent as much as you'd like to.
Yeah. Well, like I said, that's a discussion for another time. But with that, thank you all for watching, and we will see you on the next episode.